Hey everyone, I'm here on the fifth episode of iStartup, and I have Haran here from an amazing company called Urban Aeronautics. This company is super exciting, super cool, and yeah, please, Haran, introduce yourself. Just tell me who you are. Maybe give a little background, to where like how you got into the company and what you do for the company, and then we'll talk about the company itself.
Sure. So my name is Haran Ben Eliyahu. Live here in Israel. I spent about 8 years as a helicopter pilot with the Israeli Air Force,
Oh,
and did my professional career after the Air Force with mostly with Elbit Systems through program and avionics development, and then program management, and also up to business development on the corporate side for mostly for the U.S. and North America.
no,
Joined Urban Aeronautics just under 2 years ago, right after COVID hit,
no,
and really excited about this company. Visionary people, visionary concept for the urban mobility space, and not just the company, but the entire world is of urban mobilities for aviation is coming up to with a great promise in the coming years. So there's a lot
correct,
going on.
correct. Now, what do you know when? So tell me about the company. When did the company start? Like when was it founded? Like how many years ago did this idea come about?
So our founder, his name is Dr. Rafi Yoeli. He started the company back in 2003. He's an amazing forward thinker, genius aeronautics engineer. He built the first prototype in his home apartment in Tel Aviv.
Wow.
He actually, we can see it here in our offices, and I would have loved to show you, but it's about the size of a small car.
Yeah.
He actually had to break the window, roll it down from the first floor, took it out to the field with some friends,
Wow.
and flew it himself. Okay, and it's hard to understand, but basically he took a concept which the U.S. Army started about in the 1950s of two big fans connected together, a seat in the middle, and they called it back in the days, they called it the flying Jeep, but they couldn't
Wow.
get their hands around making it stable. So most of the patents that he put together and then registered, of course, is around the capability to bring this weird looking vehicle to be able to be aeronautically stable and then grow it to be a product which you could actually fly people around. And back in 2003, when he established the company, he called it already back then Urban Aeronautics, because he
He knew.
was seeing the future. He knew people will need to fly over traffic in cities and urban environments, which he predicted, of course, it's going to be packed and difficult. And if you see all the sci-fi movies of Fifth Element or Sky, all those different types of sci-fi movies, people already predicted that those things will fly and put them in animated forms or computerized forms. He built the real thing.
That's amazing. So basically he took a design based off the US Army that didn't actually work really, right? You said it didn't actually take off. And he
Correct.
perfected it. He actually created this vehicle that actually flies. He flew the vehicle, you're saying. He got into it.
Yep. Yeah, he
Wow.
formed a company. He got some of his friends, mostly from Israel Air Industries, and he got a little bit of investment, and he built the first prototype. We have here flying 1-ton vehicle, which is the size of a large SUV.
Wow.
It flies autonomously because it's a new concept of aviation. You don't want to put a pilot in there. And also there's some heavy loads of automation that goes in there. So you don't actually need a pilot. And then this vehicle started flying about 4 years ago. And this is the tech demonstrator that actually proved that this concept of technology, rather than after the prototype that he built, can be actually used in real life, makes sense in terms of the performance, range, speed, controllability, all those different tests that we're doing under, of course, the Israeli Aviation Authority.
Right.
And this is what we're striving towards, the full product, which we envision coming in coming years.
Wow. Now, since 2003 to 2022, right? It's almost 20 years, right? What
Right.
has what has happened? Like what is so obviously this takes tremendous amount of research, time, energy, money. So tell me like just tell me about the progression from 2003 till now. Like so he started off, he created it in his house and then he actually worked, actually flew. And what do we have today? Like maybe we can go through a little timeline of just like what has happened over the last 20 years really.
Sure. I think it's interesting to understand the process, but basically he took it from a small concept into a larger tech demonstrator. In aviation, everything takes time. You need to be looking ahead, something that you can actually certify. You know,
Right.
like you certify a drug with the FDA. Everybody knows about Moderna, and I think we have the FAA. And the FAA is the legislator or the regulator, which has to make sure that everything is built safely so you could actually fly people commercially.
Correct.
So we had to plan and build it. It took it started off really slowly. It did it with a small group of people, then managed to raise some funds and then increase the size. Today we're about 25 people.
Wow.
And the last vehicle that we were flying, the tech demonstrator here, which we started flying by 2018, it still flies on a jet-powered engine, a fossil fuel. Okay, very
Gotcha.
similar to a helicopter. It's the large vehicle. It's kind of proved that this structure can go up in the air stable,
Wow.
right? And go from one place to another. Now the big challenge is how to do it with a eco-friendly way. And this is another set of development that we're now undertaking, raising
Wow.
the funds for and working towards, which is electric propulsion powered by the hydrogen electric source.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Wow.
So we've created the right teams of companies. We're not going to build everything ourselves, right?
Makes sense.
We have partners from France who provide a lot of the electric components. Company from the UK who does the hydrogen fuel cells, and we're developing the airframe. And we have other partners on the avionics and other components. And we're now in the phase where we're transitioning from the tech demonstrator to be flying with a full-scale product, which will be about 3 meters wide and about 8.5 meters long, for to be able to carry a pilot plus 4 people.
So you're saying that this vehicle is going to have a pilot in it? This one, you
Correct.
said one of them was a. So do you have two vehicles? Because one of them you said was autonomous.
We're flying autonomous today. Even
Gotcha.
the manned vehicle with the pilot is going to start off flying autonomously because you're flying a new concept of aviation. You don't need to put a pilot in there.
Right.
Also, because you're going to fly into urban environments, and now I'm talking about how do you manage the traffic.
Mhm.
And the U.S. is leading the way in that, in terms of NASA and the Department of Transportation and FAA writing basically the code on how those things going to fly in congestion in cities, with the Amazon and the pizza deliveries that are going to fly unmanned, and the existing helicopters, and everything is going to be really, really packed. How do you control all this? This is going to be highly automated.
Correct.
Okay, a normal pilot is going to be very, very difficult to manage by himself in this environment. You need to be highly automated. Basically, you're like, think about it like sitting in a train car, which just the car goes by itself. You might need to take over the controls if something goes bad. But basically, it's going to be highly automated in the future. But today, it's going to start off as the FAA knows it and authorize it with a pilot on board.
Because like what we see in the movies where we have flying vehicles, it's like a road with just tons of vehicles flying all over, up, down, everywhere. That has to be, if that's really the future, which from what you're telling me, that will be the future. It has to be automated because there's gonna be too much going on.
Correct. And
crazy.
And some sort of software or a bigger brother
It's
you
gonna
need
have
to be
to
able to control, to make sure that
Sure.
the traffic lights in the air, something has to give. you think about it, even today, it already in place. Aircraft coming into land in JFK,
Yeah.
They're flying in 4 dimensions, meaning they don't only have to be on the right place at the altitude and speed, they also need to be there at the right time. Because a minute before them was another aircraft, and a minute after them, there's another aircraft, and just keep landing at very high speeds. To increase the capacity, you need to be automated.
Automated. Okay, so first of all, the vehicle that we're talking about, it's called the City Hawk, correct?
Correct.
Now, can we see, can you share your screen? Can we see this vehicle? I feel like everyone would love to see this.
Sure. So you can go, everyone can go on our website.
Which we're gonna, yeah,
UrbanAero.com.
Yeah.
Our main page, you can see the vehicle. And
this is what you're gonna see flying soon. We're gonna be walking in the street, and we're gonna see the City Hawk flying around, transporting people. Now, what's the ideal like situation that a person will be flying in the City Hawk? Is that just to get around, or like what do you envision the City Hawk for? Like what type of passenger?
So our vision is a city culture of flight. It's even embedded here in our logo slogan.
Yeah.
We envision that people can hop in, instead of hopping into an Uber car or a taxi, they could go from one place to another with a City Hawk above traffic. The first phase, though, is going to start off around the city, not directly inside the city. It's going to take time to evolve, mature, make sure it's safe. If you recall, back in the 70s, there was air services with helicopters into New York City from Newark and JFK into a Pan American building. I think it's a MetLife today, but a bad accident on the rooftop that one of the wheels of the aircraft broke, killed 4 people, and ever since it stopped. So in order to be able to come back to those futuristic times when you could land anywhere, you need to start slow and make sure you're safe. Commercial aviation is a really good example of how technology evolved with all the processes around, and it's really safer to fly today than drive a car. And this is what we're aiming at. So the first use case is, as we see it, is to start off with emergency services. And I can show you here that we have basically our vehicle can be, because it doesn't have any exposed rotors like a helicopter, and it's really compact and safe, it can land right there, right on the accident, and arrive to the scene, bring, not only come faster maybe sometimes than an ambulance because of traffic, because of other means, but also extract the wounded person or heart attack or any other situation back to the right treatment center in a shorter time than an ambulance. So by saving this, you still maintain within the golden hour for trauma centers or for strokes. Every minute counts, and the recovery is there a lot safer. And city legislators, we see that are more receptive to having this operate in their cities than entering with some, flying cars, which are more scary. Saving lives makes more sense. So this is going to be the first step for us. Second step is going to be very similar to what helicopters do today. If you look at New York City as an example, you could take Blade is a company that provides air taxi with helicopters. You could book a flight for about $200 from JFK to some place, some vertiports around Manhattan, the island, or from New York. The problem is it's still costly, and because there's you still need to take a taxi from the airport, from the heliport to your hotel or whatever. You not always save the entire amount of time that you would have saved. So, but this is a use case that already exists. People will pay money to do this and take those rides and save time. And we feel that this is how the next step is going to be.
That is the smartest thing. Using the whole point of let's say the City Hawk and the company is basically to save people time. That's the point of not being in traffic. So to use that for the most critical thing possible, which is saving lives, that makes sense completely. I see cities using that once it gets approved. I see cities using that 100%. It's a no-brainer, really.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah, and We are still in, as I said, we're still in the development phase. We plan to fly our electric prototype by 2025. As I said, aviation takes time. It takes time to mature, develop, prove, and then certify. Just certification flights are hundreds, if not thousands of flight hours you need to actually perform before you start bringing real paying customers on board the aircraft. So we project that by 2029, we're going to have a deliverable aircraft for commercial use. We're now in phase where we are raising funds to be able to do that. And if you know any good investors, we're very keen to talk to them.
100%. No, 100%. Now, so you're saying by the time frame is by about 2030 to have these vehicles in the air. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And
Wow.
if you look at the market projections, Morgan Stanley did, I think, the most quoted study. They projected to be by 2040 to be $1 trillion market.
I believe that.
But the curve, it's the normal hockey stick curve. I mean, it's going to start slow, maybe places where the need is more obvious, places like LA where they have no traffic, no transportation, places like Sao Paulo with amazing congested traffic, but also people fly helicopters today because it's unsafe because of personal safety. So there's a lot of need with a lot of different parts of different urban environments around the world. And by early 30s is where the market is going to start mature, gain more public acceptance, more a better safety record, like everything in aviation, and then pick up speed and manufacturing capabilities. We're going to help this also bring in more and more products per day, per year, drive the cost down, and also introduce more and more automation to be able to handle this traffic.
Now, the only way to get vehicles out in 2030 is to start off like what your company is doing in like 2003, because these things takes 10, 20, 30 years almost. Besides for creating the vehicle, you have to get it certified by the FAA, which takes forever. So only I see, let's say you guys or whoever else has been doing this for 20 years. I'm not sure what other companies are out there. You know, you guys are gonna be the forefront, because you can't just start a company in 2030 and say, let's fly vehicles. You're gonna be flying in 2050.
Right. And there are some fast movers. There's a company called Joby, which is an amazing company who's been around for 10 years and now moving in fast backed by Toyota.
Wow.
A few companies went on the public market with a SPAC mergers last year with enormous valuations and have some good funding to be able to ramp up people and production and development quicker. Still, like you said, the certification and it's going to take time, a lot of flying hours to prove that electric propulsion there are not a lot of certified electric air vehicles in the world. It's going to take time for the FAA and the compare EASA in Europe to be able to certify these vehicles. We all know about the past of the FAA. They're not going to be fast. They're going to be really meticulous about it. Make sure that the safety goes around. So we really think that it's not a first comer, we'll take the entire market. And also we feel that if you look at some of the comparison, I'm showing here this picture of a multi-rotor VTOL, which is electric, but the wingspan are really big. Companies are looking at taking advantage of electric propulsion that you see in drones and batteries and putting them into a flying air vehicle. We see the advantage. We really love the progress and the development that comes into this. We don't think this is a viable vehicle to land in cities because it's just too big. This is a 40-foot wingspan air vehicle. You're not going to be able to put a lot of them on any rooftop or any vertiport. Also, the exposed rotors are a risk. That's why our vehicle is smaller in footprint. The rotors are enclosed. That's why the sound, the noise that it produces is a lot smaller, and it's more efficient and safe for people to move around.
Now, are there any other companies creating a vehicle like your vehicle with the with that type of rotor, like with the
The ducted fans.
yeah,
There are a few, not quite like us, nothing in the
nothing
size and form
specific.
factor, nothing in this form factor. Most of the leading companies, and there are about 5 of them, are more towards this 6 or 8 open props
Gotcha.
powered by batteries. This is the leading kind of design.
More like this one, more like the 40-foot one. Now,
Correct.
yeah. Well, that doesn't seem super viable for a city. That because the point of putting this is in a city. Let's say Manhattan. Trying to get that thing in Manhattan would not work. Your vehicle, it doesn't even seem that much bigger than a car. I'm saying it's bigger, but there's definitely space for that.
Correct.
That's
And this
amazing.
is yeah, and you know that on aviation, it's not everything is not just about how efficient you can fly and how fast from point A to point B. The thing needs to be on the ground. Uh, how do you taxi it in and out? How do you bring people on board? How do you service it? Where does it go at night? How fast can you turn it around? If you know all those low cost airliners, their
Yeah.
efficiency comes from making the vehicle fly more flights per day because of the way they use it and it starts from the engineering of the cabin and how they do it. We learn from those lessons and we make sure that we're trying to make sure that we have the right type of vehicle to be very efficient and basically like the future of taxis just in the air. So as useful and as quick to use and get around city and turn around, refuel and come back as a taxi.
This this is probably this looks like sci-fi. It doesn't seem real, but it is real. It is real because you're sitting in the factory. I know there's a vehicle right next to you. You're sitting in the factory. It's right sitting right next to you. It's real. We
It
will
is.
we will see this soon. This
Yeah.
is it. I'm honestly I'm blown away. This is crazy. Now,
It takes a lot of innovative engineering. And we have an amazing team here who built the components, everything almost entirely other than G engines and some of the computers was built here. The propellers, the
that's
blades,
amazing.
the composite materials, everything was built in house on our tech demonstrator, and of course for the next prototype that we're building. And you know, this is just an amazing times to be able to do this within one place with an amazing group of engineers and forward thinkers for aviation.
It's incredible. Now, just one question: how fast do you envision the vehicle going? Like how many like say miles per hour? Like I'm just curious.
Sure.
Maybe you probably don't know roughly, but
No, I know. We're targeting 100 knots in terms of miles per hour. I need to do the calculation, but it's about 180 kilometers per hour.
wow, so that's like
Pretty fast.
150 miles. That's very quick, actually.
Yeah.
That's I don't know
It's
why.
less. It's less. If you compare this to, for example, to a helicopter, which is very similar, we're going to certify it very similar to a helicopter.
Yeah,
It takes off like a helicopter, it flies like a helicopter. It's less efficient in terms of it has less range and flies slower because of the duct fans,
correct.
but it still can go fast enough and be more efficient in terms of places where it can land and safe, because helicopters are very risky. As a helicopter pilot myself, I know the margins of how do you need to address the landing spot and the clearance you need to have is really long. Otherwise, you go into a bad accident.
Correct.
You need to appreciate that. And the small form factor just gives you a whole lot of efficiency in terms of operation.
That's amazing. It's good. That's very. I don't know why I thought it would be less quick. That's a very quick vehicle for flying in a city like that. That's a very quick vehicle. I mean, you don't have cars that go that fast in the city. You don't. This is and there won't really be any traffic with this vehicle. I mean, especially in the beginning, there'll be like there probably won't be that many out there.
Yep.
It'll be used for emergencies, maybe certain people going in them. So that's crazy. Now, I don't even want to get to maybe I don't know like what do you I don't know if you know, but what do you envision the cost of one of these vehicles? Like what like the like comparable to a helicopter, probably more than a helicopter because of all the new technology.
No, actually, we're looking at a cost smaller than a light twin engine helicopter,
Really?
which normally will cost north of $5 million. We're looking to reduce even more. And also the cost of operating per hour is going to be lower. You have less moving parts than a helicopter. Helicopter, the drive shafts, the turbojet engines, all the transmission, the rotor head, there are tons of many components. You need a lot of touch hours for maintenance, and it costs a lot of money. And there's also a lot of downtime after every flight. You need to make sure everything still in place and didn't crack or anything. You need to check everything up. This will have less components, more easily replaceable than this is what basically what electric propulsion brings into
That's incredible.
lower cost of operating.
And just smarter, safer, especially when there's no pilot involved. I believe that will save lives down the road, because if it's automated, there's less chance of anything going wrong in regards to like pilot error. And wow.
Yeah, I think the big barrier here, and I'm here addressing your audience, is the perception.
Correct.
The biggest challenge here is to convince people, or what we call the public acceptance. How do people accept it? A lot of people don't even want to go near a helicopter because they're scared.
It's true.
Will people go in a helicopter? I'm sorry. Will people go into a City Hawk, even if they know it's an amazing pilot? Maybe. Will they go into a City Hawk where there's no pilot? It will take time for that to come.
It will take time. Now, I feel like it's almost like electric vehicles. Like we had Tesla create an electric vehicle. They were basically the first, and now they're already they're putting in automation where people trust the company, so they're letting the car drive itself, on the road, and they trust it. So yeah, it's all about trust. So once people see it works, once they see it go, help someone, save a life, it's in the city, it's picking people up. First of all, anytime this lands, or this is by a scene or whatever, people are going to be stunned. They're going to look at it. They're going to want to know what it is. So once people see it, just looking at it, it's amazing. So once you see this thing in action, I think everyone's going to look into it to see what it is. And once they see it and they see them flying around cities, I believe they'll accept them, because it'll be saving lives. Originally, that's going to be the initial use for it. And I think you guys, that's very smart. It's very smart to do that first, or to do that.
Actually, and actually people don't realize it. Automation on the ground for ground vehicles, for cars, is really tough, because you have people walking around.
Correct.
For air vehicles, it's easier. There's not a lot of unknowns. Of course, there's the weather, the birds, other things that could go wrong, but it's easier in terms of managing the traffic. It's a lot easier to automate. It already happening, as I told you, in JFK. It's already happening here in Israel. We're connected to an amazing program with the Department of Transportation here that does tests for different types of unmanned vehicles taken for pizza deliveries or medical kits, and all flying around the same city with different providers, and no one collides, and they all manage to maintain the safety of flight. So this already exists in the air. It's not existed with this kind of vehicle, which once we bring in, we think the sky are already going to be ready to accept the automation of this vehicle.
There'll be drones flying. I believe before the City Hawk, there'll be drones flying around. There'll be within the next 5 to 10 years. Not even, could be. I spoke to a company called Flytrex. They're already trying to introduce. They're trying to introduce their drones. They're already, hopefully next year or two. So you're going to see this. It's going to become very accepted, and this is going to be basically a natural. This is going to become natural. Like, they're going to be like, where is the vehicle that are taking people? Because there's drones everywhere, and then you guys will be there. So
correct. But again, it's going to take time. The sky are not going to be black with flying vehicles very soon.
No.
And as we all know, we hope for the best, but there are going to be some mishaps,
for sure,
like anything. And we need to make sure that we progress and develop to the right safety standards and
100%.
Keep safe. Yeah.
Now, one more point. I just like to. What is it like running this company, like having this company run out of, let's say, you guys are located in Yavne, right, in Israel.
Yes.
What's it like? What's it like running it out of Israel? I know there's so much. Israel has, so much good, good people to like technology. But tell me from your perspective, you see all the people that work at the company. What are like the advantages or like maybe the disadvantages of running it from where you guys are?
Right. So Startup Nation theme
Yeah.
is not just a phrase, it's actually real life.
Real.
American companies that we talk to who used to do big things in aviation, companies like Boeing and others, who came in and couldn't believe that we managed to pull this program off with this 1-ton air vehicle with this small amount of funding.
Correct.
The amazing part doing it here in Israel is the ability to correct fast, implement, change, and fly and come to the right solution in a shorter amount of time. The big challenge here is to make it a long-term industrialized solution with a global footprint, with a global maintenance and support.
Sure.
So here, this is part of my job also as responsible for business development, is finding the right partners and finding the right locations in North America also to partner with, to make sure that we establish the footprint, establish local development partners, suppliers, and production to be able to take it to this level of consistency and safety in a commercial state.
Wow. There's a lot of creating the vehicle is the first step, and then you're gonna have to obviously create more and also create the systems around them.
Correct.
So yeah, it's gonna be obviously it's a lot of hard work, but we see it like I'm looking at the future right now. And again, it's not gonna be easy. It won't be easy, and it hasn't been easy because it started about 20 years ago. But
Yep.
but this is it's not just a movie. I mean, it's real. This is incredible. I'm
Yeah,
blown away by this.
I think our founder, Dr. Yoeli, he was a really forward thinker. I think he was ahead of
Yeah,
his time.
I believe
If he
that.
started the company today, it would be easier for him to
Yeah,
come
because
to
you already
maturity
have
in shorter times. But anyhow, we're where we are. We know where we need to go, and we can we can make this fly. So just wait and see.
well, first I want to thank you, Haran. I want to thank you so much for coming on, for explaining this amazing company, for just giving us insight of basically talking about the future of flying, especially in urban environments. And this will save lives for sure. And it'll make everything so much more efficient and safe in regards to flying in any city. I really cannot thank you enough for showing our audience this futuristic wonder. I don't know. This is amazing.
Yeah, I really appreciate you for having me on, Chal, and be happy to talk to you in the future as well.
I will. We'll keep everyone updated, and
Sure.
we will. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.